Good morning. Bright but cold. It has been an age since I've done one of these, and this is a bit of a hybrid video today. Welcome to my channel. Welcome to part Dyson Bolts, part game review, Hawklord2112 reviews. And today I am going to start frothing about a game that I don't actually own. I have it on PDF, or I have the quick start on PDF. It is a game printed that is called Not the End, an Italian role-playing game from Mana Project Studios. It is available through Modifius, via Modifius thing. There's a core rulebook about £40. There's a settings book, again about £40. Pack of tokens, pack of cards. And what it is a diceless, narrative, token-based generic system. What to unpack there? Token-based, so you use a handful of tokens for both opportunities and threats, which are blind assembled into a bag, and then they are blind drawn. They call the system Hex Sys, and the character sheet is a hive of hexagons. Now, if you know me, you know that hexagons are very much my jam, and when I saw it I thought, okay, let's have a look on the list. I got the quick start, slept on it because I was digging into Fabula Ultima, another wonderful kind of JRPG style thing, and then I looked into this thing a little bit more, and it was like, yeah, this is really quite impressive. Largely because I downloaded the character sheet. Now, if you know me, the character sheet is a good thing. I waited 8 years for Anima Beyond Fantasy to come out because I liked the character sheet. And in that time, unfortunately, my style of role-playing had changed, and then the data-heavy kind of things had finished. Bit of a different setup with the cameras today, so yeah. So the character sheet, in theory, no, that's not the one. Technology. You wouldn't think that I almost do this for a living. There we go. So the character sheet is this. And what we have, this is the character hive, where you have a space for your name. You have a space for what you would risk things for. Okay, very core thing. And when you're making your character, you start in the middle and you write your archetype in there. And then when you start off, you would write 3 qualities in any of these hexagons. These are like descriptors, big scale descriptors about your character. And then you write 4, and the qualities can be in any of these hexagons. And then linked to those qualities, you have abilities. These are skills, these are trainings, these are gifts, these are whatever. And they have to be directly linked, as indicated by the little lines that go between the two. And when you're in play, you face tests, and the tests are used using the bag. What you do is that the narrator, will judge how difficult the test is and put some negative tokens or complications, misfortunes, whatever you want to call them, and put the number of those into the bag equal to how difficult the test is. You, as a player, then choose which of your traits can be applied against that test. So, for example, if you are your archetype is classic D&D fighter, your quality, you've got melee expert. Okay, you've then got sword and board fighting. You've also got strong somewhere else. You can say, like, 1 good token because I'm going to barrel in and I'm going to attack this orc. I think that's the example I use in all of them. Need to revise that. So 1 for my archetype, which is like D&D fighter. You say 1 because I've got sword and board training. So 1 because I am particularly strong, and you have 1 because you have a trait which is a hatred of orcs. This is a fairly tough orc warrior, so difficulty is 3. The GM, or the narrator, sorry, will then say, okay, that's the difficulty. Some tests have a danger, and if you come across a danger, you would then what's called leave the scene, which is, getting knocked out. It is not being able to act further in the rest of the scene until something else happens. You can then choose between 1 and 4 of these tokens to draw. Now we know there's 4 and 3 in there. So mechanically, you can think, okay, well, I'll draw 3. You only need 1 success. 1 of the red tokens. I've used red and black. The company make their own clear acrylic hexagonal tokens in purple and orange, because apparently there's no accredited purple and orange colour blindness. So they've done their best to make it acceptable. And again, they're hexagonal, so they're going to happen. It's just, these are what I have at the moment. They're the tokens for the 6d6 RPG from Chris Tregenza from many moons ago, but they work. So I would say, yeah, I want to blind draw 3 tokens. Oh, there's 2, and there's a 3rd one. So what I have is a red and 2 black. That then gets narrated. The red one gets spent to say, I have defeated the orc. The black ones, I as a player then get to decide what kind of misfortunes befall me. Now, one of these could go on this little one down here. One of the misfortunes is adrenaline. And that means the next test that I face, because my blood is up, I've got to draw at least 4 tokens. I can't go all through. It could be written down as an injury. So I'd write injured sword arm, broken shield, battered and bloody, and then put 1 of the black tokens on top of it. That means that the next time I face a test, I spend that misfortune token, if it's appropriate. It could be that 1 of the black tokens then goes on top of 1 of my abilities, temporarily restricting my access. If I'd have drawn additional red ones, they give me additional narrative success. So it could be that I managed to take the orc out without making a lot of noise and alerting its comrades. It could be that I think, well, there's nothing else that I really want. I'll bank it. I'll put it on top of 1 of the abilities that I've used, or 1 of the traits that I've used, and then the next time I use that trait, as well as the basic 1 that trait gives me, I can spend my banked 1 as well, bumping the odds in my favour. So you've got a lot of choice. The other thing that you can do is that if you draw, say in my previous example, and I've drawn 3, if the danger was 3, and I draw 3 black ones, that means that I'm going to get knocked out and I haven't got any reds. So I don't get the orc. It overpowers me. I can accept that. Or I can take a risk. Now, if that risk, if I go, okay, no, I'm not going to accept that. I then draw additional tokens. No matter how many I've drawn in the first one, I draw additional tokens for the bag up until I've drawn 5. Okay, that means you push it. If I then draw 2 reds, that means, okay, yeah, well, I am going to get knocked out, but I've gotten rid of the orc, and I've made it silent, so his comrades aren't alerted. I then and then normally I would spend these myself to work out what misfortunes I suffer. When you take a risk, you hand these to the narrator, then they determine the misfortunes. So you've got that push mechanic effectively, but you are then in charge of the downsides of the consequences of your actions. That really struck me. And I thought, yeah, that's cool. And then I read a bit further into the quick start. We'll have a look at the quick start document in a moment because it's lovely. And you level up by either changing your traits, adding new traits, so you've got more things to bring to bear. Oh, you also have resources. They're not actually written on, I'm pointing over there like you can see it, they're not written on the character sheets, but these are things like contacts, particularly well-crafted greatsword, an emotional tie wedding ring. And what these things do is that they can be used to make tests possible where they narratively couldn't be. So, for example, my sword and board fighter, I couldn't take out an orc across the other side of a ravine because if I don't have a bow and arrow. If I've got a bow and arrow, yeah, I can make a test, whereas previously I couldn't. If I had a particularly fine compound bow, rather than just a normal adventurer's short bow, it might mean that a difficulty 3 test becomes only difficulty 2. So the narrator's only putting 2 black tokens in rather than 3, because my bow is particularly good at reaching longer distances. It could mean that if one of the things that I have is a bounty hunter's license, if I cut somebody down in the middle of town, the guards are going to come after me. With a bounty hunter's license, I get the opportunity to make a test to say, well, hold on, this guy's a wanted mark, here's my license. Whereas narratively, previously, you couldn't do. So you get to potentially add additional resources, change your resources around. You can write in scars. Now, a scar is kind of a negative ability. So if you put a scar in play, and if it affects a test that you make, you put a black, or you put a negative token into the bag. But when you draw, you can ignore the effects of 1 misfortune negative token, 1 complication token, which means that you're toughened. Yes, you've got a slightly higher chance of failure, but you don't have a higher chance of failure because if you know you're leveraging, if you've got a difficulty 3 task and you have a scar, yeah, you've got 4 there, but if you've got 4 positives in play, you get to ignore one of the complications that you draw. So again, narrative choice. Another one of the nice things that so that had me, okay, this is good. And then they do a deck of lesson cards. Now these are ways that allow you to spend tokens and bank tokens in other ways. And they are, you choose, when you level up. So once you've leveled up, you evolve your character and you can draw a lesson. So I've got one here. I'm not sure if that's even the right way around. I don't believe it is. Hope is needed in dark times. When facing a test, you can place a newly drawn success here, maximum of 1. So you spend one of your red tokens, and you place it on the card in front of you. Spend it at any time by adding it to the bag of another player facing a test. So you can say, okay, because of my previous successes, that spurs you on. The positive token added to the bag in this way doesn't count as help. So it's never affected by confusion. Confusion is a status effect, effectively. It doesn't expose me to any risk. Normally, if you help, you can decide to add your traits into the acting player's bag. But for every trait that you put in there, you run the risk, if they draw misfortunes, that you take a misfortune as well. That one there means that I can just effectively bank a success that I can then put as a potential success into somebody else's bag with no risk to myself. Then we have, this is another nice one. I am a natural talent. Quite simple. Choose one of your traits. You can place up to 2 drawn successes on this trait. If you put them put the 2 successes, not drawn successes, on this trait. If you put it into play during the test, you must add them all to the bag. So effectively, I could choose Swordsman and put 2 tokens on it without banking them from previous tests, because I am that good a swordsman. When I make a test involving that trait, I put the 1 into the bag for using it, plus the banked ones. So 1 trait gives me 3 successes. As to which cards of these that you get, you know, it's when you evolve your character, and you evolve, I'll come to that in a moment, but you kind of discuss it with the table. So if you've done nothing particularly good, then drawing this natural talent, not particularly wonderful. If you've not, there's one here, blood calls to blood, when you have like misfortunes that you can exacerbate, and there are 52 of these standard deck of cards. But if it doesn't make narrative sense that you've gained this ability, then you don't take it. You evolve your character by making critical or crucial tests. And you as a player at any point can say, you know what, this is a moment that's going to be make or break for me. This is a moment that's going to, either I'm going to learn from it and grow, or it's going to have negative effects. So you make the test, you do the test as normal, narrator spends any misfortunes, but if you pass it, you evolve your character, you add change traits and so on and so forth. Lovely system. And like I say, it is very, very setting neutral. No, wrong window. You wouldn't think I use 2 computers for a living, would you? The quick start, like I said, I've not had a chance to pick up the full rulebook yet. It is a square rulebook, 22 by 22 centimetres, European, 240 pages. And if the artwork is anything like the quick start, which I do believe it is glorious. So we've got a nice, you know, I can see brush strokes in that, nice painted guide. There we go, Minor Project Studio, from the GDR paper presented at the end. Creative Commons BY, or the Quick Start, BYNCSA 3.0. Downloadable resources, there's the team, there's the details. What's an RPG? And it's like, this is a 60-page quick start, and I feel, other than levelling up and a bit more about character evolution and growth, a bit more about character creation, and apparently the core book comes with 5 settings and stories in, this is enough to play, which is good. Certainly enough for me to give a review, and it's enough for me to froth about it. And they're not afraid to mention things like how to choose a setting. Simple statement. Long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. It talks about resources a little bit later, that a magic wand, if you're playing in Lord of the Rings, quite a rare thing. A magic wand, if you're playing in a certain specific magical academy, probably going to be quite common. And the one page down, can I? Yes, I can. We've got nice page art. I've printed it out, and it wasn't particularly printer heavy. We've got some very, very dramatic. I don't know if that was done manually and then scanned or digitised, or if it was done digitally, but it is a nice piece of art. Hexagons! More hexagons. How to create characters. Listing traits, what does and doesn't make traits. Oh. Traits such as infallible, reduce margin of error, perfect, always ready, always succeed, should be avoided. Basically, don't be a munchkin. But you can be a munchkin. You can't min-max as such, but you can craft a particularly good one. So this is one of their example characters. Lothar the Bounty Hunter. Then listing resources at their disposal. How do you use resources? You write 3 to 5, one of which can be rare for the context in which the story can take place. So you're not necessarily going to get 5 rare magic swords if you're playing in a fantasy game, but one of them, certainly not a problem. Okay. So examples. It is very well done, very well written. It's well exampled. It's very evocative. That I've been going through it, and it's like, yeah, I could really do this. Very nice and simple. When facing a test as a player, state the goal, fill the bag, draw from 1 to 4 as you wish, decide whether to take a risk, spend the tokens drawn to recount the outcome. So positive ones to pass the test and improve traits, and negative ones to ask the narrator to subject you to misfortunes or to complicate the scene. Nice and simple. Very, very, it's well translated. The other non-native English RPGs that I've got, Ryutama and Anima. Ryutama is really good because Japanese doesn't leave that much interpretation, and the team that have translated are very good. Anima Beyond Fantasy suffers. Iori's Essence, that suffers a little bit in translation as well. This, I don't feel it. Describing the goals, how to fill the bags. It does it step by step. It doesn't presume anything. How long do misfortunes last? Accumulation of adrenaline, confusion. Those are the two default lists for the two complications at the bottom. Some more artwork. Nice section on leaving the scene. How to leave the scene. If I leave the scene, have I failed? Not necessarily. You can succeed but still be knocked out. How to return to the scene. So being brought back into play. Can I return to the scene against my will? Very brief section on evolving it. Largely on the basis that they leave that for the main rulebook. And a section on how to narrate stories. GM section. The one thing I think the quick start could possibly do, there we go, difficulties. So a difficult task would you'd be facing like 4 tokens, normal tasks 3. It does say up front, if something's trivial, it's not a test. And don't make tests if things are impossible. How dangerous tests are. So I mentioned that, and that's the number of the negative tokens that you draw that is the threshold for you to leave the scene. So if it's something extremely difficult, as soon as you draw one of these, you're out. If something's got no real danger, so you're not going to get knocked out searching through a library for a specific book. So there's no danger to that. There is also depth of tasks, which are like extended tasks. Narrating complications. So it is a wonderful, wonderful example, and it's a very well done quick start for Jerry. That piece of art, I like. I like that in there. Very moody. Yeah, so that's what we have it. So this is not the end from Mana Project Studios. The dice and bolts of it, as said, put together a bag of tokens comprised of traits that you leverage against the task at hand, or the test at hand, and difficulty tokens, or negative tokens based on complications, based on the difficulty. Draw as many as you want, between 1 and 4. At least 1 success means you've done it. At least 1 negative one means that things have got messy. Then decide if you want to risk, then narrate the outcome from it. Hopefully I might do another one when the thing comes out, or when I get a chance to pick it up. So, and hopefully I might be back in here. If there are any more games that you've seen on PDF that you think I might not have done, if they've got quick starts, if there's anything specific that you want reviewed in this style, that you want a dice and bolts of, drop a comment, message me on pretty much everywhere at Hawklord2112, and until then, roll well, God bless.